Ebert, a swinging 70s family has one dad too many in a very Brady sequel.
Jennifer Jason Leigh confronts mobster Harry Belafonte in Robert Altman's Kansas City.
And Cameron Diaz sets her sights on Jennifer Aniston's husband in She's the One.
Quiet! We Bradys have to stick together or we'll fall apart. Much like that house of cards. You see, a deck consists of 52 cards. And if the hearts didn't work with the diamonds and the spades with the clubs, then how the heck could we ever play a game of gin rummy? Marcia and Greg Brady both want the same attic room, and so they build a house of cards that sets up one of Dad's classic speeches in a very Brady sequel. I'm Gene Siskel of the Chicago Tribune.
And I'm Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times. And if only all the family's problems were that simple, there would be peace and harmony at 4222 Clinton Way, where time still stands still for the Brady Bunch, and it's always the 1970s. But a crisis strikes near the beginning of a very Brady sequel when there's a knock at the door and a man claiming to be Mrs. Brady's long-lost first husband turns up. He's played by Tim Matheson, and he wastes no time in getting reacquainted with his three daughters.
Marcia. Oh, Marcia, Marcia, Marcia. You have grown up to be so gorgeous.
I know.
And Jan, my dear Jan. Isn't Marcia gorgeous?
The ever-friendly Bradys invite the newcomer to move in and sleep on the couch in Dad's den. Alice, the housekeeper, played by Henriette Mantle, has trouble adjusting.
Hey, do you think Mr. Martin will want to join us for some breakfast?
I tried to wake him up, and he told me to stuff it. He must think we're having turkey for lunch.
Intrigue thickens as Greg and Marcia figure out that if she has a different dad, then they're not really legally related. Actually, their situation is just the same as before, but they begin to pick up romantic vibes from one another.
And you got me wanting you.
Well, hey there, foxy lady. Marcia!
Turns out the new dad is up to no good. When he kidnaps Mrs. Brady and takes her to Hawaii, the whole bunch flies out to rescue her, making life miserable for their fellow air passengers.
May I have your attention, please? With those of you dancing and singing in the aisles, please sit down and shut up.
I didn't think the first Brady Bunch movie was very funny. I thought there would have been more humor if there had been a greater contrast between the Brady's reality and the real world. The sequel is not a comic masterpiece, and I can't quite recommend it, but I actually did enjoy it more than the first movie. And it has a fair amount of sly comic moments aimed at those darn Bradys.
I didn't like the first one, but I genuinely enjoyed this one.
It is better, yeah.
It is clearly better, and I thought that, that the story was seamless. I didn't think there were any bad scenes and all. It never dragged for me. And the conceit, they just hit every single target. And it went a little adult with the business of the stirring of sexual feelings between brother and sister, if you will.
Yeah,
I think this is a very funny picture. I like the decor, the writing. It's a really good comedy.
I know what you're getting at here, because my thumb was only kind of marginally down, and I'll tell you, I was trying to analyze my feelings after the movie, and it seemed to me that one of the built-in problems is the Bradys are so laid back that the movie never really has the energy to push those laughs out there.
All right, now let me tell you my reaction to it. And I'm going to sound like some conservative politician arguing for nicer movies.
Okay.
There was a gentleness to this story that this summer, with all the explosions, and we've talked about it on a previous show, all the explosions and all the knives, there was something sweet that I liked about them. I liked falling into this time warp. I think that's the whole point of it, to go back, regress, whatever you want to say it. It's a nice, funny picture.
Okay, well, I will go this far as to say I sort of liked it without being able to quite recommend it, but it is better than the other movies.
That's not going to be any quote, Ed, that's for sure. One thing I think I've forgotten to say,
There are some big laughs in the picture. Okay, next movie. And our next film is also about a closely knit family, but a much more dysfunctional one. She's the One is the story of the Fighting Fitzpatricks, a father who lives to take his boys fishing, and two very different brothers who have very different problems with women. And here's my conflict with this picture. I like the performers a lot, but I didn't for a second believe most of the scenes in the film, starting with this early one, where one of the brothers, played by the film's writer and director Edward Burns, picks up an impossibly cute fare, played by his real-life girlfriend, Maxine Bonds.
Look, you could come to my friend's wedding. I'm allowed to bring a date.
Are you serious about this? You want me to drive you to New Orleans in my cab?
Yeah, come on, please. It'll be fun.
Now that's hard to believe in any taxi, but a New York taxi, come on. Well, it even gets more far-fetched because the next day they get married, which leads to this scene, where the newly married brother introduces his bride to his materialistic Wall Street brother and his brother's wife, played by Jennifer Aniston from TV's Friends.
Oh, so you had a full 24 hours to get to know each other then.
Francis.
No, I'm relieved, honey, aren't you? I mean, I thought they might have rushed into this.
Watch this, Francis, okay?
Yeah, you know what? You guys don't listen to Francis. He's about as impulsive and romantic as a nun. In fact, you know what, honey? I'm wondering why you actually didn't become one.
That brother is played by Mike McGlone, and he's got some serious problems because he's been cheating on his wife for several months with a Wall Street colleague who happens to be Burns' former fiancée.
Come on,
She's played by Cameron Diaz, who proves in She's the One to be much more than a pretty face. She really is an accomplished actress.
Don't pull this jealous with me, okay? I can sleep with whomever I want. Remember, I'm not the one that's married.
The conflict between the brothers comes down to a boxing match arranged by their father, played by John Mahoney.
All right, no punching below the belt, no kicking, and Francis, no biting.
I didn't buy a lot of the specific moments and speeches in She's the One, and I know why. They're totally far-fetched. But I do credit the actors and the basic plotting of the story by Edward Burns. She's the One is his second feature after his surprise hit from last year, The Brothers McMullen. Edward Burns really caught reality with that picture. She's the One is more of a conventional entertainment. It's a close call. I'm not recommending it.
I'm not recommending it either. I think if you really look carefully, a lot of the same elements have been recycled out of the Brothers McMullen and just kind of lifted up to a level of more absurd plotting.
Right.
And it doesn't have the same truth, and it doesn't have the same interest as the earlier film. I think, in a way, what he was doing is trying to remake his $24,000 movie as a $3 million movie, and now it's time to forget about Irish families in New York, or at least this Irish family, and move on to some new stuff.
Yes, this is more of a cartoon version of that first picture.
Yes, it is.
It doesn't work. When we come back, a two-bit hoodlum's girlfriend kidnaps a socialite in Robert Altman's Kansas City.
So right now he's on a train to Chicago, not Washington, right? You're some liar, lady.
We'll pay the money. You don't have to worry about that.
What money? This isn't about money. I don't want your money.
And what is it about?
What this is about is Johnny O'Hara. I just want to get him back, safe.
That's Jennifer Jason Leigh as the tough-talking girlfriend of a small-time hoodlum in Robert Altman's new film, Kansas City. She's in the process of kidnapping Miranda Richardson, playing the wife of a Democratic politician. Leigh hopes the woman's husband can use his influence to get her boyfriend back from the clutches of a gambling boss, played here by Harry Belafonte.
How'd you like him? And a sucker in a box.
You son of a... Don't you touch him!
In the middle of the kidnapping, Leigh takes Richardson to the movies to see Jean Harlow, the movie star that the hard-boiled would-be gun mole has copied in her personal style.
What'd you think of her?
Who?
Harlow.
I thought her hair looked cheap.
Cheap! Ha! That's a laugh. Joan Crawford looks cheap, and not Jean Harlow.
Altman intercuts the crime scenes with great recreated musical performances from the famous Hey Hey Club, as in this saxophone duel between jazz legends Coleman Hawkins and Lester Young. They're played by Craig Handy and Joshua Redmond. Meanwhile, the endangered crook, played by Dermot Mulroney, makes a desperate plea for his life.
You want a cup of coffee? I'll get you coffee. You want any job done? Don't make any difference to me what it is. You want blue cut up for dog meat? I'll do that too. Because I got no say. I owe my life to you. That's how you ought to look at this. You got yourself a slave.
Robert Altman hardly ever makes a conventional film, and he hasn't this time. It's more of an experiment in the nature of jazz. Just as the saxophone duet is a conversation in music, so are the dialogue exchanges between Jennifer Jason Leigh and Miranda Richardson duets in words. Altman isn't really interested in the kidnapping plot at all, I think, except as an occasion for the verbal music. Kansas City looks good, sounds good, it has an interesting effect, as if the whole thing had been scored instead of written.
Well, I think that's a very convoluted way that comes out of the press kit, basically.
Oh, thanks a lot.
Well, that's where it comes from. I read it.
Thank you very much.
I read the same thing. And I'll tell you that as the story happens, I'm bored by it. I like the music. I like the club. But the plot between the kidnapping plot is so far-fetched, and the Jennifer Jason Leigh doing her Jean Harlow imitation, I never got involved in any of those
Well, Gene, I'm going to
people.
tell you something. I never saw the press kit for this movie, so just assuming that maybe I kind of came up with some of this myself, do you think there's any validity to it?
I think that's maybe the intention, okay? But I can tell you that in terms of whether this story works on the screen, whether you cared about any, did you really care about any of these people, honestly, Roger?
I was looking at, it's not about caring about the people, it's about the texture.
There are people up there.
It's about the texture of what's going on and how it's going on. It's about style. Okay, coming up next, the latest movie starring the talented Lily Taylor, a review of Girlstown when we come back.
I mean, I couldn't stop thinking about Nicky, you know? And I guess I just thought if I went there, he would look guilty, you know, like he was paying for it or something like that.
Emma, you should have told us, man. We would have come with you.
I know.
Jesus, Emma.
You gotta do something.
High school girls band together to stay alive amid abuse from young men and their own low self-esteem in Girlstown, a film that at first seems a little studied, a little predictable. But then these characters begin to grow on you. These are inner-city girls about to go off to college. Anna Grace plays Emma. Ingenue Ellis plays Nikki.
See, like, even though we're gonna be apart next year, we'll always be together. Like this.
But Nikki soon commits suicide, and that triggers some soul-searching among her friends. As Emma confesses to her boyfriend, she and her late friend were both victims of rape. Emma defends her own act of retaliation, wrecking the rapist's car.
I mean, did you see what it said on the car? Do you know what rapist means?
Yeah, I know. Why'd you do it?
What are you talking about?
I know you were there. The whole school knows.
So? So what?
So what? What do you mean, so what? How can you just say, so what?
Because I'm proud of what I did.
Girlstown is very much a get-back-at-the-guys movie, and the scenes of the girls messing up an old boyfriend's apartment are a little too giddy to be real, I think. Lily Taylor and Brooklyn Harris play the other two friends, and play them well.
You want these cookies? Yeah.
But when the girls are together and just talk and have more than just revenge on their minds, Girlstown is effective. It's when they have self-reliance as their goal, when they discover the empowerment of self-respect, that Girlstown has something important to say. And so, thumbs up for me.
Thumbs up for me, too. And once again, I think that what's so good about this movie is the dialogue, the way that there are pauses and there are, the dialect and the reference points and the way that they have obviously different goals in life. For example, Lily Taylor, who's obviously older than the others.
Right.
Somebody at one point says, how old is she? She was let back so many times, she's about 40 by now.
And college is not in her future.
College is not in her future. And then the mystery of this girl who commits suicide and that touching scene before we know that that's what she's
You know the
gonna
difference I'm talking about the action sequences in the picture, acting out, that gets a little tiresome. But
the stuff where they're just sitting on top of the baseball
I
dugout,
like that.
just talking about life, that moment at the end of high school when everything is ahead of you, but in a way, nothing is ahead of you.
We do not get very many scenes of women at this age relating to each other. That's fresh. When we come back, small towners gather in the Spitfire Grill, an Audience Award winner at the Sundance Film Festival.
The Century Plaza, offering the finest in luxury service and Southern California style, adjacent to Beverly Hills on LA's fashionable West Side. The Century Plaza Hotel and Tower, a Westin hotel.
Our next movie, The Spitfire Grill, came out of this year's Sundance Festival, where it won the Audience Award as the most popular film, and somehow you'd think a Sundance audience would be more sophisticated than that. It's not only embracing the mainstream, but the worst of the mainstream tendencies. The movie is a top-heavy melodrama crammed to the bursting point with a lot more plot than it needs, some of it incredibly contrived. There are good performances, though, especially by Allison Elliott as a young woman who gets out of prison, picks a small Maine town in which to start a new life, and gets a job in a restaurant where she soon tires of everyone speculating about her past.
Say, Hannah, did I forget to mention that I've been in prison down in Wyndham for the last 5 years? And I only got sent to solitary 3 times. Imagine that.
The restaurant is run by Ellen Burstyn. Then she's hurt in a fall. Now the newcomer helps run the restaurant along with homemaker Marcia Gay Harden, who is much needed in the kitchen. The older woman decides she can't handle the restaurant any longer and decides to raffle it off.
A contest?
What kind of contest is that?
Some kind of essay thing. You know Hannah. You don't know what she could be up to.
Something about an essay or something. $100 in the letter.
Why would you even want to try such a thing, Hannah?
Because no one else is buying.
Any one of the 3 or 4 plot strands in the Spitfire Grill would have been enough. I mean, I haven't even mentioned yet the money missing from the safe, or the 2 different forms of abusive husbands, or the mysterious hermit in the woods, or the love affair, or the person who gets swept down the rapids, or the old dad who was so inspired by one of the essay contest entries that he leaves the house for the first time in years. This movie plays like the Reader's Digest version of a 9-hour miniseries. The writing and acting are okay, but the plot is so manipulative that I just couldn't take it seriously.
Yeah, don't insult the Reader's Digest. You know, they have some pretty good editors
They
there.
do, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I hate pictures that cram every character as the most colorful person you ever met.
Yeah,
I mean, I guess I'm quoting Reader's Digest back to you. The
Yeah,
most unforgettable person I ever met.
Yeah,
but there's like 50 of them, and they all are having a convention in the same town, in the same movie, and they walk on, and they all do their colorful thing and then get off, and I was very frustrated and made angry by the picture.
I mentioned the Sundance Festival in my review because I think this shows a certain tendency. 10 years ago, a Sundance audience would have laughed this movie off the screen. And now they're so success-oriented. They want to find that next hit, that they're really looking for low-budget copies of what used to be high-budget cornball studio movies.
Well, this is certainly cornball. Coming up next, our video pick of the week, the first major film by the red-hot star of A Time to Kill, Matthew McConaughey.
Siskel and Ebert's Video Pick of the Week, brought to you by Orville Redenbacher's Gourmet Popping Corn, the best part of the movies.
And for my video pick of the week, I want to focus on the actor Matthew McConaughey, who is all the rage now as the heartthrob Southern defense attorney in the new movie A Time to Kill. But before bursting upon the screen in that star-making role, McConaughey turned in a strong, offbeat supporting performance as a gentle cop in Boys on the Side, the Whoopi Goldberg sisterhood drama from last year, about 3 very different women crossing the country, played by Goldberg, Drew Barrymore, and Mary Louise Parker.
Listen, why did you stay with this guy so long?
A lot of that back there was drugs. You know, they really him up. But he's a really nice guy underneath.
At first, Boys on the Side is a predictable, tough girl picture, but then it turns magical when Drew Barrymore's character, a victim of an abusive boyfriend, meets a new friend on the road in Tucson.
Hi, Jane. Happy birthday.
Oh, thank you. Peppers.
Yes, sir. From my garden.
Oh, isn't he sweet?
Hold on, babe. You know that I'm still in uniform.
Now, McConaughey's decency and easygoing manner pop out on the screen even there, and it would be put to greater use in A Time to Kill. So if you're wild about Matthew McConaughey, or if you just want to see a decent entertainment, I do recommend Boys on the Side, my video pick of the week. Now let's recap the movies we reviewed on the show. A split vote on a very Brady sequel. I thought it was charming and a lot of fun. Roger can only call it a close call. 2 thumbs down for the thin and unconvincing She's the One, Edward Burns' second feature in which the characters go through too many changes to be believable. A split vote on Robert Altman's Kansas City, the Jazz Age film that I thought had more style and substance. Roger thinks the style is the very point of the picture. 2 thumbs up on Girls Town, the story of inner-city high school girls learning to respect themselves. And finally, 2 thumbs down, way down on Spitfire Grill, a predictable, very forced drama about moral redemption.
So we both like Girls Town. I like Kansas City, and
I think
I sort of like the very Brady sequel, and you liked it a lot.
I think it's really charming and a lot of fun. That's it for this week. Next week we'll be back with a special show celebrating the great movies of the early 1970s, which we're calling the last golden era of American movies.
At one time, it was great what we had.
Some wonderful video selections, especially if you're under 30 and you never saw any of these pictures the first time around. That's next week, and until then, the balcony is closed.
Don't miss the first official James Bond Festival, October 23rd through 27th in Ocho Rios, Jamaica, with deluxe accommodations at the Renaissance Jamaica Grand. Call 1-800-MONTEGO.
Discover a whole new world online with America Online, the easy, fun way to explore. To get your free 15-hour trial with no obligation, call 1-800-249-9700. Give it a try. Dentine Gum. In less than 60 seconds, Dentine's tingly taste will make your breath feel fresh and clean. Brush your breath with Dentine. Disney's Tom and Huck, starring Jonathan Taylor Thomas, is now on video. It's the perfect family film, rated PG.